And welcome back. We are getting ready to go with our first championship matchup in the championship division. We've whittled through 8 rounds and gotten far with these two teams. One of them, the Dyslexic Manic Shop. They are undefeated. Went through the entire time without losing. Rackmasters, our defending champs, they lost once, but their spread was enough to break the tie and get them into the finals. I've got Will Anderson and Jackson Smylie. Jackson, you actually played in a school Scrabble final.
I did, yeah.
And were victorious.
8 years ago now.
So from what you remember, what do you think's going through their heads?
I think they're both trying to stay calm, and they're both trying to read their opponents to try to get an edge. Because a lot of the time, the teams don't know each other well, and I think right now they might be talking to each other in the back room and trying to see what's going through the other one's mind. And because it's tough right now, to stay calm.
So they're acting nice.
They're acting nice, but inside there's like a billion things going through their head.
Excellent. Well, we've got Will as well. Will is a North American champion on his own and Scrabble expert. What have you seen in the 4 players in these 2 teams that really stands out to you?
Just a really, really high level of play. I would expect nothing less than a really crisply played game on both sides. Hoping for it to be a nice even draw. In Scrabble, sometimes you get games that come up where the draw is just really lopsided and one team is likelier to win on that basis, but hoping for a really close game between 2 teams that we've seen can play at a really high level for any level of play.
It's just one game for all the marbles, which is part of the reason you say we hope we get a nice draw, because if you don't draw well in one game, that's just going to be the way it is. Yeah. For the winner, not only are they crowned National School Scrabble Champions for 2019, they will win the $3,000 prize as well as some hardware and some good stuff to go along with it. We will be back at the end of our next contest to award those championship prizes. And I just took a look because we talked about what got these teams here. The Dyslexic Manic Shop, undefeated, went 8-0. Rackmasters went 7-1. They had just one loss, as did the Scrabble All-Stars, and they had a spread. Their overall margin of victory for 8 games, 7 wins, 1,241 points. That's just an amazing amount. They won, and they won big and decisively. And just to compare that, Dyslexic Manic Shop, who went undefeated, 8 wins, no losses, their spread was 818, which is still pretty good. But to have a 4-digit spread in only 8 games is pretty darn good. So it should be a good one. It promises to be a good one. They're getting set down at the table, and as soon as they're ready to go, we will head on out there. Want to thank our technical crew before we go out there who've done just an amazing job over the last couple days. We are here in Philadelphia. There's been some weather issues and all kinds of other things. You probably don't even know it, but we broke a camera yesterday afternoon, and they've done just an amazing job making our lives easier so we can just sit back and talk about Scrabble. And what better thing is there to do than just sit back and talk about Scrabble? They're getting the game set to go, and again, after this game, don't go anywhere because it'll be the high school championship match between Jem Birch and Leo McKenna. We've seen both of them. 2 contrasting styles there. Jem just flies, puts down whatever comes to mind, and it's usually a great play. And then Leo a little more deliberate. So we've got our championship division game, our high school game, and that'll follow by the awards at about 3 o'clock Eastern, 12 o'clock Pacific. So we hope you'll join us for that. And then we all get on a plane. You don't get on a plane, do you? You drive home.
I'll be driving home, yeah.
You're what, about an hour from here?
A little more than an hour, yeah.
Now, you do travel a lot for Scrabble, though. Both of you guys travel quite a bit to play.
Yeah, to the ends of the earth.
Is it difficult? I mean, what are the challenges? Because both these teams actually have had to travel here. What are the difficulties that come with that?
I think moving time zones is always really tough, and I'm sure Will can comment on this because he actually went to Malaysia last year for a tournament, which is on the other side of the globe. But it's always tough. It's a mental game, so if you're tired and you've only slept 5 hours, there's no way you can play to the same level as someone who lives in the state and who's slept a nice 8 hours.
Are there any tricks of the trade? Somebody said stay hydrated. That's really, really important.
That is important. I took a couple extra days when I was traveling to Malaysia to try to acclimate. I mean, sometimes it's not possible, but I mean, if you're just traveling like some of the, like Jem is, for example, we'll see in the next game, he's traveling from California.
As is Leo. Both of
and
them.
Leo as well. So, you know, hopefully the jet lag is evening out for our 2 finalists in the high school division
So
as we move to
It's
championship.
not just a mental game. There's a physical component to it as well. The Rackmasters on our left, they are our defending champions. Dyslexic Manic Shop on the right. The draw is taking place. You know what? Can somebody get that water off the table? It always makes me nervous to see that there at this point.
But we were just talking about how
I have to
supposed
stay hydrated. Stay
right?
hydrated off camera.
Okay.
That would be helpful.
So we have Noah on the left, and we have Jeffrey Pogue on the right for the Rackmasters, and then we have Archit and Thomas on the left and right for the Dyslexic Manic Shop. Looks like Dyslexic Manic Shop is going first.
And
we're
off
set
in
to
the
go.
finals.
I do not want to have to say I told you so with that water. I'm just saying that now.
Little trivia, that is actually my clock that's being used, so I also am a little nervous.
You're
All right, well,
invested in the
they
water.
moved it a little
I'm highly
bit farther out of the
invested. Yeah,
way.
I don't want to have to get a new one. of
All
those.
right, now the clock is going to start the moment that first letter hits the rack,
You can see
and
Jeffrey
there it goes.
hovering his
And
finger
there we
there.
go. Thank you for doing that. I will now, he wants to take a sip. There
And
you
we
go.
see a
Chug it
blank
down,
early
come
off
on.
in the game.
Chug it down.
All
Big
right.
blank draw.
So right away we see
Oh, wow.
Bringer, and they're not going to waste any time. I said we see Bringer, and they said, oh no, wait, they were just turning the board. So they are going to maybe take a little time to figure out what the best play is. But and I think this is the first opening bingo we've seen.
And also the first vertical opening.
Vertical.
No, we had one earlier,
We
but
had
yeah,
one,
the
okay.
vertical play is
They're
sort of
pretty rare.
a mental kind of way to throw your opponent off. I don't know why. I guess
Let
because
Jackson talk about this because I'm a
you-
horizontal.
Yeah, I am a vertical opener, and I think this is something we were talking about earlier with trying to get in your opponent's heads in the finals. It's a very stressful time, and opening vertically might throw them off their game. If they've played 8 rounds already where their opponent has opened horizontally, and suddenly everything is flipped on the board, it might make the Rackmasters more likely to make an error.
I don't think there's anything that's going to throw Noah off his game, though. I feel like he's very focused, as is Jeffrey as well.
they seem to do, they've played together for a while. That's an advantage. You kind of develop different roles, different techniques, different responsibilities.
And they won last year. I mean, they've been here before. They've been on the big stage in the final game. They're the ones who have been through this before. So I highly doubt that something as superficial as which direction you open.
It's a little bit of a
an
gut
effect.
punch when your opponent begins with a bingo. We're assuming, of course, that blank is an I. They play, is it scry?
Scry, yeah,
Scry's
Scry comes down.
and
Looks
so
Like
great
that,
play.
it scores pretty well. They could have maybe another option might have been dryly through the eye of Bringers, not using that S, just because the S is so valuable to hook Bringers if you were to get a better, more of a bingo length word. But I like Scry as a good, scoring move.
all or nothing for Dyslexic Manic Shop. They follow
Yeah,
up
from
a
the
bingo.
beautiful bingo to a
nothing.
horrendous.
Yeah,
vowel
3
play
I's, a
crap.
couple of A's. The W, which we saw wreak havoc on our game last time. What to do? WADI is a word.
It
There's
is.
no good place for it though. The W has a nice spot to the left of the E in Bringers, but really only Awa plays there for a lot of points, and that leaves the really
It
ugly
leaves all
I,
three.
I combo.
Yeah, not
So-
what you're looking for.
And again, there's kind of a 3-part process to your play. You find your word, you find your position on the board and how that's going to affect things, and then you find what it's going to leave you with, and you make your decision based on that. Based on that, they did go with the AWA play that you had mentioned. It is probably the play that gets them the most number of
For sure.
It
points.
absolutely is, yeah.
But you just saw what they had left on their board, 3 I's and a D. An I and a D on the other board as well, but some better tiles to go along with it.
And pretty nice draw for the Rackmasters here. There are definitely some 8s that would play. I'm still looking to see if any of those actually fit here.
And it looks like they'll be able to use that spot that the Dyslexic Manic Shop just opened up to the left of Awa they can put their M next to AR to make Mar, and that will score 18 points on its own. And especially if they move upwards, paralleling Awa, they can score upwards of 20 or 30 points.
So they put the E in front of the W and something else, and maybe a D.
Yeah, and the D, they can do DEME, which I think came up in an earlier game.
Yeah, it's all about how many points they'd like to spend, how many tiles they'd like to spend versus how good of a leave they'd like to keep. There are a number of plays that go in that spot.
And even though they're behind 70 points at this point in the game, it doesn't factor too much into your play. Obviously, you'd like to.
No, just keep
better be
making your
ahead
best
than behind,
play.
but
Yeah,
just-
just keep making your best play, and you'll be surprised how many times those type of leads evaporate.
It looks like they've spotted DEME, which is their highest scoring play. And it looks like they're thinking about a lot of options here.
Yeah, so Kevin, you just alluded to it. Every play has a series of components. It's easiest to break it down into just those three: the word you're playing, the letters left over, and what you're doing to the board. You can really. So here, the Rackmasters are opting to pump up their score at a slight cost to the letters that they're leaving over, which I think is a perfectly defensible option.
And when you're trailing, what you're doing to the board, a little less important if you're opening it up. I mean, you may want to play a little risky. But again, very early in the match, 25-point lead for Dyslexic Manic Shop. Those 3 I's and a D didn't get a whole lot of help with the P, N, and E, although there were certainly a lot worse options.
Yeah, given that they had 3 I's and a D, it's
Yep.
nice that they drew 2 consonants. It could have been worse. So they made out okay from that, and they should have ways to burn some vowels here.
And they're definitely going to be looking at those 2 I's. I know they have pined set up, which might be a word, but might also be the best leave that they see they can keep. And definitely this I problem is going to be going through their head.
As we've said, undefeated through 8 games, and in any competition at any tournament, to rattle off 8 straight wins, very, very difficult.
And we saw it in their last round they played. They were making some expert spots, these very complicated parallel plays. They were very, very good at spotting all their options.
Yeah, it was so impressive. Some of the plays they made, like Door and Johnston Severe, are all in one move. And they found that insertion of between Hatch and an R. They played Hatcher. I mean, these are
It's funny,
excellent plays.
You thought it was severe. I thought it was severer.
Oh,
But no, it's just interesting that you kind of look at it a
I
different
think
way.
it is. I think that word can play.
Well, I think it's again, pronunciation doesn't count.
Right.
Spelling does count in Scrabble,
I think
although there's so many words sometimes it looks like it doesn't.
I think both severers and severest are both words. So they were both right. Isn't that nice?
It's nice to both
It
be
works
right.
out that way.
Yeah.
So they do have Pioneer to the R in Scry, which would be a really nice way to get rid of 2 I's and also block up the board a bit.
Yeah,
And since
I
they have
was
a bit of a
liking
lead,
Pioneer.
It seems like a good idea.
Going to take their time,
If they
go
really
through the progression, as you say, figure out all the possible options. You see where Pioneer would go.
If they really reach deep through that R, Pioneer through the R is great, but even potentially slightly greater would be a very obscure 7-letter word, Rippiini. That's a plural of Rippiino. That honestly, it's not a slam dunk that it's better just because keeping one vowel and one consonant has its advantages as well. So I think Pioneer is a perfectly good play here. I think they're likely to see it, but
They seem to have spotted Bindi as well. They have INDI.
oh, that's okay.
And
No,
they're thinking about
they're going to
Pride.
play Pride.
Ooh, okay.
So Pried, to put the D on the triple, and to not allow for the S to go after if they had played Pride, Pride.
And Trunkle. I wonder if they would have played Trunkily if there were.
Trunkily?
Why?
Well, that just got
Y,
blocked.
Yeah, it just
Thinking
got
about it.
blocked.
It just got blocked. So
That
you
seems a
see
bit,
Trunkil.
They do have some phony opportunities because they have the LIK to go to the E in Pride, where they could make the LIKE suffix. And they have a few phonies they might be
Runt-like?
talking about.
Turn-like.
Turn-like.
I think runt-like would be maybe more. What's
Because-
more plausible between those?
Well, in my opinion, you put like at the end of anything. So
Well, they've arranged it. You see.
I think they're thinking about like.
not trunk like. They'd have to. I guess you'd go runt like or turn like.
I think I would say runt
I would do runt
Now,
like
do
as
you
well.
when you just you guys immediately went to, well, we got a phony opportunity. Do you think that's what they're thinking, or
It
did you look
seems
for
like
a
it's
real word
absolutely
first?
what
They
they're
have
thinking.
turn likes.
Well,
It's
they may think it's real
absolutely-
too, because as I say, you can put like at the end of any word, and it
It's-
seems to work.
It's totally what they're thinking. At this level, two teams that have done so well in the main event portion leading up to the finals, there's going to be a respect level between both teams, but there should also be kind of an acknowledgement that both teams, I think we've seen both teams get away with phonies at various points. So while they do respect each other, you can't just blindly trust that every word that's played is valid.
Some teams are going to get a reputation for playing a lot of phonies, and you've got to be on your guard for that. Other teams are going to have a reputation for not playing phonies, and then that opens the door possibly to do it. They're going to go with the safer play of blink, extending to the double word score.
Yeah, like that they didn't risk it. I think that's likely to get challenged. So blink is a perfectly good play to
For
score.
a change, we see the Q early in the game with eyes to go with it. No U's anywhere on the rack or on the board.
And there's a nice spot for QI right above blink that they just
Yeah.
opened up.
That's
I
staring.
think we're going to see that come down pretty soon.
Yeah.
Now,
I
when
agree.
you're ahead, makes it a little easier to play that because you're gumming up the board a little bit. But if you're behind, would you still do that
I
play?
think you have to. Yeah, I think you have to still play it. You've got options available on other spots of the board, such as the letters of pride. You could still play through. There's a nice wide open E in pride. You could eventually get an S and maybe play something with deems.
And they do just what you say. QI, which most people will pronounce chi.
And they leave a piano on their rack. We'll see if the piano can fit on the board.
GPN. Oh,
They
wow.
have
wow.
torture.
All right.
Very nice.
Torture,
Torture,
set up, and
and-
the wide open D for it if
and,
there's no other spot. Which
And an appropriate word for playing Scrabble at
Oh, and
times.
an
It
R
can
as well.
really be torture.
Except
torturer
when you
and
get the bingo
torture
down.
both.
So now they know it's gonna play. The question is where. They're gonna take just a moment here and see if it goes in front of the D in pride or in front of the R in bringers. It looks like they'd get more points from using the R,
It seems
Yeah.
like they're going for
and
it.
that's what they're
Smart.
going to do.
Just
Now,
a good decision.
it opens things up a little bit, and I'm not sure it's going to be enough for them. Oh yeah, they should grab the lead with this, as they just trailed by 55 points.
Yeah, small lead now.
So they'll have the lead, and that's not a surprise. Even if you were ahead, you knew that you couldn't keep that team down for long, and that they were playing in such a way that they were going to be clearing up their
Oh
their
wow,
rack
there's
for
a
good
huge
stuff.
bingo.
There's a huge bingo here, and it doesn't actually go through the T. And the question is whether all of their energy is going to be spent on looking through that T in Torturer, the
All right.
first T.
All right, for those of us who aren't geniuses like you, what's the word?
The word is through the R in Torturer. It's panbroil,
Oh my
which is
goodness!
in fact
Oh my
one
God,
word
oh
and
my
not
God,
two.
look,
And I
look.
think they found it.
They found it, I think.
That is huge.
I think they found it.
Pan-
They have
it
it.
looks like
they
they're
have it.
Look, he's
considering
putting,
it.
he's putting his finger
That's
right where the R
amazing.
goes.
Oh, please
And they're
play
going for
this.
it.
Oh my goodness!
Brilliant.
Amazing,
Unbelievable!
You
That is
love to
great
see
fun.
this.
Wow. To know, look at the stunned look on their face. To know the word and to be able to find the word
In less than a minute, it
is
seems.
just outrageous. I think they've out called for hold, meaning they're going to take a look at it.
Oh, and they drew stooge.
And are they going to now? So that goes into into the thought as well. I think they
Stooge,
actually
which-
accepted it. They did because
And they're going to play stooge
well,
with
the
blinks.
bag's still there, but they are tracking. And the moment that they're knocking the letters off their tracking sheet is an indication that they've probably accepted it. However, there's no letters on their rack, so they may have called for the hold and then looked to see where Stooge could play.
It's a very tough challenge when you have a bingo that only plays in one spot, because you could definitely challenge wrongly and then have your bingo
Yeah.
blocked.
So everything
They're-
was
they're letting it
accepted, and
stay.
they are going to draw. And look at this, our third consecutive.
Man, are we seeing why these two teams are the finalists?
Our third consecutive bingo, our fourth in the game, stooged and blinked.
I'm just amazed, really. That's so good. The play is so good.
And these are not common words either. Panbroil and stooged are not words that everyone knows. This definitely shows that both teams have put some serious work into learning the dictionary.
And going back to panbroiled, it made even more difficult to find because you're using an R in another word. And so the whole combination of letters, is you have the 3 consonants in a row, of which you have 2. It just mentally is very, very difficult to find. 224 for the Rackmasters, 216 for the Dyslexic Manic Shop. No surprise we've got a game this close between 2 of our best teams, our teams that scored the 2 best teams in our tournament.
Our wishes were answered for a nice, close, back-and-forth battle as opposed to one team just pouncing on the other from the get-go. So that's great. I think we're in for a treat here.
Rackmasters, a understood Scrabble name. The Dyslexic Manic Shop, not quite as easy to understand.
That one is a bit of a convoluted.
Yes.
We got that
If you're dyslexic,
explanation earlier.
if you're dyslexic and you read the word Manic Shop, you may scramble it around to read the words champions. And
Which they hope to be.
They will be if they can find a way to win this one. And it's going to be difficult for either of these teams. They're good, but their opponents are also exceptional Scrabble players.
So it seems like they've spotted Vendu or Vendu through the E in
Wow.
Pride, which is an absolutely incredible play. They get rid of all of these clunky consonants and keep the J, which is actually a very, very nice
The
tile
J
on this board.
is so good here. Yeah, that was
Well,
just,
why do you say the J's good here?
It's just there's a lot of open spots to play, a lot of triple. So the key to why the J is good here is there are a ton. Look at how many triple word scores are open on the board.
Yep.
It happened that they could not play their J to a triple word score on that turn. So instead, they made their best play not using the J,
Saving it
almost
for another time.
guaranteeing that with a reasonable draw, they're going
Right.
to hit their J on the triple on the next turn.
And there's also that
There's a
end
big
in the upper
spot.
right
Yeah, there's a
that they
couple
don't get
spots
it.
maybe where other J words could go down. So
And this shows some good understanding about taking leaves in terms of the context of the board. It's very easy to look at the J and just consider it a pretty bad tile overall, but on some boards like this, it's amazing.
Olight? Is it
Olight.
Olight?
Fabulous play, getting rid of all their vowels.
And that's one of those, again, Scrabble words you know because it's just got lousy letters in it and you know
Yeah.
how to get rid of them. So it's been nothing but single point tiles on one rack and nothing but big ones on the other, as we see a Z, a J, an H.
yeah, a big question here is when Vendu was played, did they know that the word Vendu actually takes an E hook at the end to make Vendu, V-E-N-D-U-E? And if they do know that, that could be a potential windfall for them to use up some of their high point tiles in that spot with that hook. They have an E if they want to use it there. I'm just amazed that they made such an advanced play on that turn. So my guess is they probably do know that it takes an E if they know that the word is good without one.
Vendu is a public sale. It takes an E and, of course, a S.
So yeah, see how they approach this turn. They've got a couple options. A very commonly seen Scrabble word of Jehu could go down in that spot. I'm quite sure they know that word, but whether they know the hook is the key. Oh.
Can we check that? Can we
Yeah,
check?
I wonder-
We've got a question on the spelling actually on Vendu, whether or not this particular dictionary
wonder if-
requires an E at the end.
Oh, I wonder if that happens to be one of those rare words. There's a very small handful of them that is in the unabridged but not the school Scrabble dictionary. That's interesting. But it looks like it's past. Oh, wow. Nice play.
Zero scores 33 points, and it keeps the J for next turn, and the J still has some spots to go. It has a spot right above the IN off of QI where it can form the word JIN.
Now, it's an interesting thing that's happened here. These players are good players. They play in adult tournaments, and for that, the dictionary is slightly different than our school Scrabble dictionary. The word Vendu spelled with just the U at the end is not an acceptable play in this
In this
particular
dictionary.
competition.
Yeah,
Now, the
that's-
E that can go at the end is acceptable, but an S is not without the E. So we'll see
Interesting.
how that impacts. It went off without a hitch because both teams assumed it was good, as
it
did,
is good
as did,
in
as did we.
the unabridged,
But
yeah.
we, after checking through our dictionary, noticed that VENDU
Surprising.
not good.
Yeah, that would have been incredible if they knew that. I certainly didn't think of it.
I only did because I looked it up to see what it meant.
Right.
And so the Rackmasters found their best play of Patty. That was an incredible play to get rid of all of these 1-point tiles for a pretty good score.
Yeah, it's just
And now the J
super impressive.
has not found a good home.
They
with
just
his
can't.
lack of
Yeah,
vowels.
they can't seem to draw. There's definitely things they could have drawn that would have gone through the L of Panbroil or even the G of Stooged, but they've drawn a few too many consonants for that.
They have the nice fit in between the IN and the E off of blinks. They could put the J, the C, and the T to make the word inject,
Oh God!
which would get rid of a lot of tiles, and we'll see what kind of board vision they're bringing to the table.
If that goes down,
That would really be incredible.
We saw pan broiled. Once
We
we saw
saw-
pan broiled, I don't
anything's
think
on the
it's-
table after that.
Yeah. 272 to 275, just a 3-point game right now. It's been close throughout. Dyslexic Manic Shop opened with a bingo, and Rackmasters fought back with consecutive bingos later in the game that have gotten us to this very, very tight score. Still another blank available. Still the X is out there.
And now there's no real good place for the S on the board. There aren't many big S hooks, so this game will not come down to who draws the S necessarily.
Yeah, at least as things stand right now, that's totally true. But then again, it only takes 1 or 2 plays to
Change
the
everything,
complexion.
sure.
Wow, look at the score. You just see how absolutely knotted up things are.
Now the J sat on their rack for 2 or 3 turns now. At some point,
They could opt to just play Jug at the top of the board with Jin. I mean, if they don't see Inject, which I think I myself would miss that frequently, that's a decent way to get
Don't-
rid of it. And I keep harping on it. The letters after a play like Jug that you leave over, CH, TN, are very synergistic for scoring.
So it seems like they were worried about playing the word jug because it actually takes an A at the back to play juga.
Yeah,
and
that's
so
true.
jug would have had
Jug
that
can't be
dangerous
right.
spot it opens.
Yeah.
So they like to play something a bit safer.
That's
by playing
better.
hung.
so hung and hin, of course, is good. And there's that other blank we were just talking about. So each team is, you wanted an even draw? Each team has gotten a blank. And
got one.
that's the single biggest thing that you'll hear about how the game is unfair. My opponent kept getting all the blanks. And of course, 25% chance that you'll get both blanks in a game.
Assuming equal skill
Assuming,
levels.
yeah, and that you're playing the same
Yep.
letters off.
Yep.
Now, unfortunately, they don't have a lot to go with it now. So
They've got a few too many vowels, but they've also got great places to dump vowels, right? The G of Stooge jumps out at me as a really easy way to play several of their vowels and open a new bingo line.
So
pretty
the,
sure
the
they'll do
question
something
now is, so once the bingo becomes not a possibility, the question becomes, all right, now what do I do? What do I do to give me some points to leave the best opportunity for a bingo coming up? So you've got to take into account what letters have been played, what letters are available, what the board looks like, and where things are going to go. So many different things have to go into what just seems like a very small play here.
Yeah, the devil's in the details with this game sometimes. It's just
And as you
little,
mentioned-
little subtle details.
As you mentioned, just drop in a couple letters could do it. They get rid of the EA, they make NE, BA, and
surprising.
EAT,
I was expecting OG or Agio through the G of Stooge there.
getting rid of another letter and opening up a lane. All right, the J continues to be the albatross for the Dyslexic Manic Shop.
Yeah,
This
it's
is
so
at least
interesting.
4 turns in a row they've had the J.
Yeah, we like the original play they made, keeping it, even though it happens to somehow be an omission from this dictionary. I think both players recognized it as a word instantly and didn't bat an eye. But they had that J since then due, and I'm sure they're desperately hoping to get it out here.
And now this lane they have on the left side of the board next to Panbroil is going to prove to be very, very important for this game, especially since the Rackmasters have the blank on the rack.
They set up the triple availability with the word hung. They took advantage of
Moat.
it about as good as you could with
Moat's a
that
great
moat with
play.
the M on the bonus
Yeah,
square.
that's a ton of points.
They're going to count it up and count it up carefully.
Yeah.
Look at what they've got over there on the other rack.
A bingo's going down for sure.
Yeah,
you
there's-
see Anisol at the very least.
And when you study, we talk about studying, when you study bingos, you start with just common letter combinations that you might see. This is a rack you've probably seen.
Well, it depends
A
on
million times.
It depends on what you find fun, right? If you're learning words for Scrabble, you should do what you find to be most fun. Some people learn words like anisole that you see the Rackmasters have lined up because it's all 1-point tiles and you're likeliest to get it. But there are people that prefer to learn the less probable words that are a little bit more exciting or fun, such as Calisaya, which we saw be played earlier in this tournament by one of our high school finalists, Jen.
My guess is these guys study them all. And it's a big,
Yeah.
it's a discipline. I mean, the best players are going to be studying constantly, just over and over word lists, different lists of rack possibilities. And there are tools online you can use to help you become a better player and help you study. So check those out. And of course, the number one thing you got to do is just keep playing. So they're scrambling it around to isolate.
Yeah, they
But
had
it seems
soilage.
like, yeah, they found one of their best bingos of soilage.
So that's
And when we're
such a
talking
cool-
about best place here, I mean, you're just talking 1 or 2 or 3 point difference. But in this game, that's everything.
They're going back and forth, and then we can see at the very end, 1 or 2 points could decide the game. We had the tie earlier in this tournament, and that just shows you that you can't make any mistakes at this level.
And we were talking before the broadcast here. We don't know what happens if there's a tie here. I'm not sure what the rules say, whether or not there's some sort of playoff. My guess is that we have co-champions, which would certainly be fitting for
These two teams.
I mean, they're just so evenly matched. They both play so well. And you can include another 3 or 4 teams in that mix. And here they're going to go with...
Obelias, it looks like. Maybe
Wow,
the blank
they
of
found
B.
so many of their options
Oh,
there.
so using the blank as a B, some good things with that is, first of all, it's probably one of the lesser known
It is. It might
bingos,
go-
and it may
Yeah.
induce a challenge.
Maybe they get a challenge out of it. This is a valid word. It's a great find.
Well, the J continues to clog things up. It hasn't gotten any better with the V, a C, an F, an H. If they could just get rid of 2 of those, J and the V in
High
particular,
point
would
tiles,
really
yeah.
help.
And they do have Haj, getting rid of the H and the J through the A in Obelias.
That would do
they
the
may
trick
consider.
to get the biggest ones off.
You guys know what an obelia is? I'm going
Uh,
to say a flower.
A
I'm
flowering plant, I
I'm
think
gonna
is
guess
what
a
it's going to
flower.
say verbatim.
I'm going to go with a coin. I feel like I might be
You know
wrong.
what? No, you got probably a 50-50 chance of it. Oh, it's a marine hydroid.
Oh, well, that clears it up.
Does that mean it's like a marine plant? Like I don't know.
I mean, we all know about marine hydroids, don't we?
Well, it's one of those words that Scrabble players know, and I would venture to say none of them know what it means.
So there's 3
Yeah.
tiles left in the bag right now, and you just saw the Dyslexic Manic Shop checking the bag. They were checking how many tiles were in the bag because that may inform their decision of how many tiles to play.
And it is getting to the crunch time here.
With just 3 in the bag, we talked about you don't want to empty the bag because that
Yeah.
then an opponent bingo ends the game. However, you know what the distribution of letters is. You certainly can tell if you're in the Rackmaster standpoint, the letters that are left are such that it's going to be very difficult for them to bingo just because of the letter combinations.
Yeah.
And
Also,
just a 19-point game right now.
the X also
Oh, the X is still there.
probably the most dangerous tile still yet to be played.
And I think it's still in the bag.
It is still in the bag. Well, it could be on the Rackmasters.
Oh, yeah, we haven't seen the
rack,
Rackmasters.
But from Thomas and Archie's perspective here, that X would, I don't know, a couple of easy places to play. It might be with the S of
GOX,
Obelias.
or-
I don't know, something like that. So maybe Haj is a good way of getting in the way of those spots.
Well, if they have an O, they can go SOX then.
That's true.
So it's all,
There are no O's
there
left,
are
so.
no O's left, exactly. So there's so many things you have to look at. And
All right, here we
you
see
know,
it.
Looks like they're playing
they're
Haj, which is
playing
a fabulous
Hodge,
play.
H-A-J.
They're also keeping their E, and there are no E's left. So if they
The
know
last
the
E.
E hook on Vendu, then that will
Oh,
be
that could
very,
be
very
huge.
important.
And they're the ones that played it.
They are, so they may know it, and that may be essential for winning this
Oh,
game.
wow. It's coming down
Just
to the
having,
wire.
just the last E is always just valuable on its own. Even if, I mean, there it obviously has such a spot where it can go. But he is such a valuable, flexible letter late in the game. To not have it on your opponent's rack is great to keep it on
All
yours.
right, so look,
Ixia.
they set Ixia up, and it plays right on top of Vendu for a big score. That's going to be very difficult to
The
overcome.
I would sit over the D, the X.
We've seen XU a bunch of times.
Yep,
It shows up constantly.
And that would give them a 32-point lead, but that would not be game over because that puts the A in the triple word score alley, and there's a lot of high-scoring plays that the Dyslexic Manic Shop can have in response. So that's why they may be taking a lot of time. Even though Ixia is a very nice 39-point play, it is not necessarily going to guarantee them the win.
Now, there is one letter left in the bag, correct?
There's one in the bag.
There's one in the bag, so not surprisingly, it was probably their best play anyway, but Dyslexic Manic Shop left a situation where their opponent could not bingo out of the game. And again, they know what the letters are that remain and have to go with the assumption that bingoing is going to be next to impossible.
Yeah, the A tiles they see unseen are C, E, F, F, N, S, V, W. So as you can see, a lot of consonants, only one vowel in that pool of 8 tiles. And so the Rackmasters they're probably fortunate to have all the consonants, sorry, all the vowels.
And fittingly, I can tell you the last tile in the bag is the W. So that's
That is interesting.
that's been an important letter as our competition has progressed. So that's what they're going to get, assuming that they do play at least one letter, and it's a pretty good bet they will. Passing is an option, but not one that you'd think they're going to take.
No, the score is too close right now. They have to maintain their tempo advantage, which means they have to score some points immediately to make sure that the Dyslexic Manic Shop can't pull away.
This is amazing, but just playing through the outcome that we think is going to occur in this game, it's possible
If you say time,
that a tie is in play. Yes.
now that's
Yes.
if the
just throwing it out
play
there.
if the play progresses as we see
At a
as
very
a
precise
possibility.
Yes, there are precise
So
possibilities.
just one little thing could
that would
change
lead
all that.
to a tie, which would just be unbelievable.
We've never seen a tie in the finals of, I don't think, any North American School Scrabble Championship.
And we've already seen a game that was ruled a tie.
We saw a tie, and we know of a tie in the high school division that had a definite impact on the results as well. So, with the competitors being so evenly matched, it's not as surprising that we had those ties.
Well,
But it is even
it's
even
still
when you,
so
even
rare.
now,
it's just-
As
very
I said
particular
earlier,
thing.
I've tied twice in approximately 1,000 tournament games. So to see them that
how many
frequently.
of those have you won, Will? Of the approximately?
How many of
1,000?
my ties?
No, how many of your games?
Half of
1,000?
them.
You really about 500? No, your ties.
I'm kidding.
No, but of your tournament games.
I don't know. I'm not sure. Something like 60%. It's not that
Pretty
much
good.
more than
Well, you went
50.
on a big run once. We know about that. We talked about that once. You were
Yes,
28 in a row?
there was a big run a couple of years
And
ago.
we've seen how difficult it is. Dyslexic Manic Shop, they won 8 in a row, and
That's amazing.
That's
That's
amazing.
The caliber
And-
of their opponents has
Yep.
been very high. They beat a number of excellent teams that we've seen in contention in previous years. So clearly, a force to be reckoned with. Wow, I just can't wait to see how this game wraps up. It's
Well,
really
both teams with
exciting.
about 9 minutes left on the clock. Both teams within 7 points of one another,
And I
and
think
just
the-
a single letter left in the bag.
And the Rackmasters know that this is probably the most important play of the game. This is what could decide the win for them, and if they make the incorrect play, this could be what results in a loss.
And
So
they're
I
so
think they
cool.
know.
They're so. I mean, this is a big play. This is, you say this is the game. This is the championship, and they're just going through the motions. They're going through the
Exactly.
process. They're keeping their mind on the task at hand.
The impressive thing is they've seen the play that scores them by far the most points already. You see it on their rack. Ixia playing on top Vendu, right? They've taken the necessary time to really look carefully. They've got a great play in hand. They're looking for a better one and realizing eventually that there isn't likely to be one. We're going to see this play go down, and then it'll be on Dyslexic Manic Shop to respond And I think that's what we're about to see.
And the only reason why you can look so many turns in advance is because the bag is there's one in there, so it's effectively empty.
Sure, yeah.
So we know exactly what letters and tiles the players will have. He's got Ixia right in his fingers right now, and then he keeps changing it to just XI.
It's a tough position. They have 8 different possibilities of what could be in the bag, and they're trying to go through one by one to see what might happen.
And it's a
Whichever tile
big
they go.
difference. It's a big difference if it's
Yeah.
It really
if
is.
it's a W or
I guess
an A.
from their perspective, both Fs are unseen to them, so it's really only 7. They can do a shortcut on that, but the idea of it is absolutely correct, that they have to go through every letter and think, what happens if we draw this letter? What do they have if we draw this letter? And it gets really complicated.
And they're saying, gee, we hope it's not we hope
Oh,
it's not a
look
W,
at
and it's
this.
going to be.
Oh my God!
So they have the last A, I'm assuming.
Look
Not
at
only
this.
the last A, they have the last I and the last U.
Look
Oh
at
my
this.
goodness.
That is
Oh.
amazing.
My God.
So you see what we're talking about by them having the last vowels, other than the E that's sitting on the other rack. They've set up that X in the lower left corner to be used as part of that triple word play that's sitting right to its diagonal to the left. They can play Axis ahead of it, they can play XI or XU below it, and that's going to get them a ton of points. In addition to that, now they grab the W. They now know this ugly, ugly rack that their opponents have. The Rackmasters lead by 18.
That's amazing, really.
And
the foresight to make that play is extraordinary, I have to say.
They
That
looked
is
in
awesome.
the pool and they realized that the Dyslexic Manic Shop could not block Axis. No matter what their rack is, they cannot effectively block. And so that spot is going to be the Rackmasters for the taking.
Wow.
They could put the E at the end of HI to slows down one direction, but then, as you say, Axis is gonna be the play in that first column.
So I just wonder, it's so impressive that they thought to make that play knowing full well that Dyslexic Manic Shop did not have the letters. It just was not possible for them to have the letters to capitalize. But I do wonder that in a game this close, right, you just gave away a lot of points on the scoreboard to play XIS over Ixia, right? I think it's a 14-point swing between the two plays, and I just wonder, even though I just love the creativity of that play, I wonder if the 14-point swing is going to be something they regret leaving on the table there.
Well, Dyslexic Manic Shop has to make up 18 points.
They've got a
And
ton
then
of high-scoring tiles.
They see Axis as knowing that they can't do anything to
So
stop
the interesting thing from their perspective is I think they've got a number of really high-scoring plays. Obviously, the Vendu spot is going to loom huge right here. Do they know that E-hook on Vendu? That's important.
It's actually not a hook, it's the proper spelling.
Sure,
and
sure.
Well,
In this situation.
But that's also worth knowing because an S is not good there on its own. Now, it doesn't really look like it could play very much.
Right.
But if they put an S there, maybe even as the last play of the game or something with that instant challenge, that could be important.
But what I was building toward is that the real trick from their perspective is if they try too hard to block the Axis hook and sacrifice too many points to do so, that might actually be a trap for them. Their best path here may be to simply ignore that spot and realize that even though there are big Axis plays coming, like away, that's going to hit really hard, Dyslexic Manic Shop has their own very high-scoring plays that they can do in sequence, knowing Rackmasters cannot go out that quickly. So, it's so fascinating to see how this will wrap up here.
It seems like they're considering EFF, making Vendu.
Yeah, they've got that separated. There's an incredible scoring play, an insertion that I've ceased to be amazed by anything these guys are playing now. But it would nevertheless be awesome if they played Soch, S-O-C, making the word Isba through the O of torturer. There is a little spot to put the S and the O,
Oh my
making
gosh.
Isba and Eco.
Yeah.
It scores a boatload of points.
Because the
It
C
doesn't
would get
use
the
their
bonus.
E for Vendu. So they have a couple of plays that score a lot of points between EFF, the phonetic spelling of the letter F, and Vendu and Soch up there that could potentially outrun even the heaviest Axis plays that can go down now. So it is anyone's guess. I certainly have no clue how this is going to unfold.
And it seems like they were lifting up the S and the C tile, which is promising for them seeing that fit. And that would be amazing because it's very easy to look at the top left spot of that board and just tell yourself that there's no possible word that could fit there. So it takes a lot of creativity to notice that ISBA spot.
That would just be, I would be so happy if I found that play in a game.
I find it fascinating that they get so fixated on some things. Like you see that one tile's turned around. And we've seen tiles on their side. It's like, yeah, okay,
Well,
now
it's
I'll get
that
around
V.
to it.
It's
Yeah, it's
almost
a
like
V. I
it's
don't
the
want to
one-
see it
it's
anyway.
the one
Yeah.
tile they don't want to look at. It's the one that's clogging things up a little. The rest of the tiles they have work well together and have some synergy.
If you've got to go out, and that's not a consideration just yet, a V and a C are not going to be helpful. They're the only two tiles, of course, that don't have a two-letter word that they can go to. And they're looking now to block.
Yeah.
They're just saying, there's no way we can do it. So then do we put something someplace close?
Right. I mean, it's the worst thing they could do would be to try some kind of partial block that doesn't really get the job done. I'm not even sure what that would be.
I think XIS was such a solid play because there's really no way to block even partially.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think, like, is there a word with chi, C-H-I? It doesn't look like there is.
Time running down almost at the 3-minute mark for Dyslexic Manic Shop. Good time management for both these teams. When they've had a quick play, they've moved quickly.
Yeah, but
and when they've had to take their time, they've taken the time.
And they've saved a lot of time for the end game, which is very crucial. As you can see, this is the most complicated position of the game, and I'm sure they're glad that they are not under time pressure in this situation.
Well,
Starting
that's
to get
true,
there
but
as
they
we
kind of
dip
are.
under
Yeah.
3,
I mean,
yeah.
it's so complicated, and there's going to be more moves in the game, right? There will be at least one, maybe 2 turns per team from here on out, and they might be in a situation where the time pressure does start to kick in if they don't make their first move of their sequence very soon.
They just need another vowel.
I
If
just
they had another
can't.
vowel, everything would be different.
The caliber of games that we've gotten to commentate on has been absolute. Oh my
my
God!
goodness.
Oh my
Amazing.
God! I can't believe this.
That is an absolutely top-notch find of Soch and ISBA.
So many reasons that's good. Primarily the points. Second of all, they have that E, and that E is going to be helpful for them if they want to find a way to get back in this.
That
Now,
is amazing, everybody. That is such a good play. I can't underscore enough the foresight to see that. And very quickly, the Rackmasters play what I expect to be their best play of EFF. And now it really all rides on, do they see the Vendu hook with that extra E?
Away was a fabulous play, even though it leaves the clunky IU combination, which is usually unideal. It actually lets them go out in 2 different spots next turn with Dewey, D-U-I. The Dyslexic Manic Shop cannot effectively block DUI, so now they have to find their best scoring play.
Oof.
So
Maybe that's...
inside of 2 minutes, they certainly know they can't go out. So, and they know that their opponents can. So they've got to somehow make up a minimum of 34 points here.
Yeah, given
And
what
that's gonna
Jackson
be
just said.
almost impossible to
Given
do.
what Jackson just said with the multiple spots to go out with UI, I don't even think that EFF, that F is going to be enough. Oh my God, what a valiant effort though with Soch.
Well, and now you got to start thinking, maybe I play VEFF or something
think
like
they're
that
thinking
to
exactly
try.
that.
I think they might have to, and I'm
Or-
quite sure the Rackmasters will challenge that.
Not if it doesn't mean the game. If they can still go out and win, they wouldn't challenge.
That's
it.
true.
And
If
I don't know whether it
if
will.
meant the
Okay,
game.
here's what they're going to do. They're going to play EFF up
Okay,
there.
that is significantly fewer points even then.
Yeah. So Vendu was something that they
Well,
just
not
didn't know.
significantly, 3.
Yeah, you see Thomas shaking his head.
And
Very
they're going out
difficult
with
as they
DUI.
do indeed go out with DUI. So the Rackmasters, I believe,
A successful
are our first
title defense.
Consecutive two-time champions. That happened once before.
It has
I'm
happened.
looking at Jackson because he's sort of the historian of the school Scrabble event. But the Rackmasters do it again. Congratulations to them. Two-time school Scrabble champions. We're going to get a word with them before we play our high school final and find out more. And my goodness, credit to the Dyslexic Manic Shop who fought valiantly, took their first loss of the tournament, but they did it in the finals. What an amazing game we just saw. Amazing games throughout the tournament. You see the final score there, another 400-point plus loss. So that's and you can't fault it when it happens. You played really, really well. You just didn't get the right tiles, and your opponents played a little bit better. Anything we talked a lot about the game. Is there anything? What was the one specific moment that stands out for you?
I don't know if there is a moment. I thought that it's ironically that there were plays that Thomas and Archie made there. They played Panbroil instantaneously.
That's one of the most amazing plays I've seen.
They played Soch in a play that, 99 times out of 100, I probably missed that play, and it would just, at any level of play, that is an awesome find. And that's the team that didn't win.
Yeah, exactly.
The other guys made excellent plays just as consistently. I mean, what can you really say? I thought that the XIS is, that play displays a level of foresight that would take a career's worth of Scrabble to see in the end game, with Ixia staring you in the face. A 40-point play that is just the obvious highest scoring play there. They took the time to slow down. They had plenty of time to spend and made an amazing play that may well have just won them their title defense.
We saw the importance of word knowledge. We saw the importance of tracking with that play. And we also saw the importance of knowing the words in this dictionary, because VENDU is not good in this dictionary, even though in the tournaments you guys play.
Yeah, I mean, you heard our reaction.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think any of us, right, Jackson?
Yeah, we never would have guessed Vendu would not be a word in this dictionary, but it seems like both teams had masterful command of this dictionary overall. Just the fact of knowing and seeing Vendu and seeing Panbroil, and also for the Rackmasters for seeing Stooged. The fact that they had 4 bingos in this game total just shows what kind of level of play we're dealing with in the finals of this tournament.
Now, you primarily play with just the normal NASPA dictionary that we're using.
Yeah.
You play with multiple dictionaries. You play different divisions, different tournaments, different things.
There's more dictionaries than you can shake a stick at.
And you got to know them all. If you're going to
yes.
bounce around from tournament to tournament, you got to know.
Yes.
And this one fell through the cracks that certainly could have changed the game.
Sure. But I mean, ironically, it was the Manic Dyslexic Shop. Ooh, I can say that 10 times fast. They were the ones that played that word, so it's not as if it actually sort of helped them that they played it. They still fell short, so they're not going to look back at that as like, oh, that's the reason we lost.
Right.
So in that sense, it's almost reassuring to know that that wasn't really the decisive way that the team that won. Or
They're
going to
look back at this game, and I don't think they're going to.
No one will have qualms.
Frustrated
over this.
with anything, because the level of skill we just saw from these guys aren't even in high school yet. Unbelievable.
I know, it's amazing.
Josh is setting up outside. He's going to have a word with the winners in just a little bit. We invite you to stick around after that as we count down to our award ceremony with our high school championship, which will immediately follow a short break that we're going to take here, turn things around. So please stick with us. It's getting good. We just crowned our first champions of the day. We are going to do it again for our high school division in just a short while. While they're getting set up outside, I do want to encourage you to stick with us throughout the day. And when you're not playing Scrabble with us, play Scrabble at home. That's we keep saying that time and time again. The best way to play. How many games in an average week do you play? Between online,
at least 10.
10?
You have to be consistent.
I thought you were going to say about 50 or something.
Here's the happy
Oh, here
defending
we go.
champion.
Yes,
Congratulations.
that's the final. They're going to remember that board forever.
Yeah.
Back in my pre-Scrabble existence, I think I might have told you this. I interviewed a Scrabble champion when I was in college, and he had a coffee table made out of the final board. You know what I'm talking about?
That's amazing.
Sure, yeah.
Charles Goldstein.
Encased.
In the case, it was his final I'll tell you the story. I hosted a radio show, and I read in, I think it was Sports Illustrated, that a resident in Berkeley, where I went to school, had won the National Scrabble Championships. And this was before there was an internet and context that you could find any place. So I picked up the phone book and looked up, the man's name was Charles Goldstein. He said, Charles Goldstein Scrabble. So I knew I had the right guy.
Wow.
I called him up, and then we did a feature of him on the show.
All right,
Josh
here
is
we are.
outside to talk to our winners. Take it away.
Wow, what an amazing way to win your second straight championship. We don't have a lot of time. You guys played phenomenally. At what point did you know you were going to win the game? Let's start with Noah here.
Probably after we played XIS. Right over there, because we knew that they couldn't have anything to block and they just had consonants. Yeah.
So you were planning on playing Ixia first for 39 points. What stopped you guys from making that word?
Well, I just did a bit of counting and realized with our terrible rack of like Y, 2 A's, 2 I's, or something, it took up every single possible letter that could block that area, meaning that if we played that, it was completely safe and left a perfect open, like completely open opportunity for us to score.
So you knew that they could not score enough with any combination of plays to outscore you, whatever letter you drew. That is some amazing calculation. One more question. Did you calculate that if you drew the W, Ixia would have tied the game?
Whoa, no. Not at all. That's scary.
We were in the commentary room. We were freaking out over that, but it did not happen. You made an even better play, an amazing play, setting up all of your case tiles. Nothing they could do about it, and you won an amazing game. Congratulations again. I'm going to pass it back to them, and we're going to move on to the high school championship. Congratulations to Noah. Congratulations to Jeffrey, 2-time champions.
All right, we're back. A quick interview, but we kind of did all the analysis of that game that I'm sure you could stand. They're applauding outside for our winners, and they certainly deserve it. We're going to take a quick break, set up for what promises to be an amazing matchup between Jem Birch and Leo McKenna, the top 2 high school players in this year's competition. They are good friends. They've played many, many, many times, but this is the most important matchup that they've had so far. So don't go anywhere. We'll turn it around and be back pretty quickly.